With the release of All-Stars 5 Plus Boreus, we can now officially make a top 5 list of Mythic Legions horses. DorkLair! Welcome to another DorkLair action figure video. Today I'm taking a look at the new Boreus horse action figures from Mythic Legions All-Stars 5 Plus wave. Possibly the best horse they've done yet, in my opinion. And I'm going to just do some comparisons to the other horses and talk about where this ranks and sort of rank all 5 in this sort of hybrid top 5 video / review. If you want a more in-depth review of any specific horse, you can go take a look at my other horse reviews because the body is essentially the same. Most of the parts are the same. You know, there's some variety in the heads and the hooves and the saddles and things. But for the most part, it's the same figure with the same articulation as all the other horses. Just a matter of which details I prefer, which details you prefer. If you have your top 5 of these horses, and I kind of joke with top 5, there are only 5 horses, but if you want to rank them like I'm doing here, do so in the comments. I'd love to see, how my ranking compares to everybody else's. Maybe even pause it and pose your rankings before watching the video. Up to you, but I would love to hear what you have to say about the 5 horses. Starting off with number 5 among my top 5 Mythic Legions horses is Phobos from the Alethea wave, and by no means do I dislike this figure, I just like the other ones a little bit more than this one. This one has the thinner legs over here. It's got the skull style head sculpt. It has all sorts of ornamentation up on the head there. Beautiful colors here. I love the purple sort of like highlights throughout on the mane and whatnot. So this very much is Boreus with a new head and a new paint job. It's got the same saddle, the same setup. Obviously, it's got a new front piece on that collar that's very similar to the size of Boreus's collar. It's a great horse, but I do like all the others better. And from here, the top 4 are really difficult. I love them all so much, and the differences are very minimal in terms of how much I like each one. I put this one at number 4, mostly because it's just not as versatile as the other horses. It is, however, loaded. I mean, even the accessories, like the sword and shield and stuff like that, it's got so much stuff, and it's got the very unique headdress that is very versatile. You throw that headdress on and that saddle, you throw the other parts in the gear and stuff on, for example, the Headless Horseman horse, and that probably becomes my favorite. That would probably be my favorite horse with that setup there, but that is not an official release. That's more of a kit bash. But I do think that because it's so specific, this is Arethyre's horse, it's really tough, kind of similar to Phobos. It's tough to use it for a lot of purposes other than just being Arethyre's horse. Number 3, I would consider to be the OG, even though it is not that old, and even though it came out literally at the same time as Aethon, I do kind of just consider this the core horse upon which everything else is built out. One of the big differences this one has is the thinner lower legs compared to some of the other ones with the furrier Clydesdale-esque parts. It does have the thinner piece up here. So this is your standard heroic adventurer's horse. It's got the more subdued saddle with the blanket and so on. And I have my sword through my stirrup here, but whatever. Anyway, I think this horse is phenomenal. There is a good argument that if you were going to get only one horse in the entire line, you might want to just get Boreus. If you're just going to own one horse in the line, I think this is the core horse to have. All right, we are down to the top 2 horses. I want to sort of discuss why these 2 are my favorite, and they have some very similar things going on as to reasons why. One of them is they're a little darker, they're a little more adventurous, they're a little more I don't know, epic, I guess, if you want to use that word. They both have the longer hair leg pieces there, so that sort of makes them just a little, I don't know, more like a war horse or something, in my opinion. They both have a darker color scheme, they both have dark saddles, and there's just something really cool about the overall shape. It's kind of like the best of both worlds, getting this epic horse, but also one that doesn't necessarily need to be a specific character or belonging to a specific character. One of the things I do prefer about Boreus over here is that he's got the thicker collar and the furry sort of like blanket under the saddle, whereas the Headless Horseman's horse has the blanket there and has the thinner collar. I also tend to prefer, unless this is posed up with the Headless Horseman on him or in like a action pose for standing there, in sort of a neutral pose, which I tend to do on my shelves. I don't usually try to have my horses in like a 3-foot stance or like a galloping stance just for the sake of like stability. So I tend to prefer having the less expressive face going on. And so for those reasons, I'm giving the #1 spot to the brand new horse Boreus. And so let's take a look at this guy. First of all, like I said, I love the collar piece, the saddle, and the wrap underneath. I love the colors and how the sort of reddish furry piece contrasts really well with all the grays, and those grays are awesome. There's a ton of subtle shading. Very much reminds me of the best parts of Boreus, which is that fur paint job on there with all sorts of like shaded, it's going from a lighter gray up to a darker gray in the head sculpt. We've got a, really shiny glossy eyes going on here. And then you can see it goes back to a darker gray down towards the feet where you get those longer haired lower leg pieces. Cool little pop of green in the saddle. Just a very cool horse. I think this is in story sort of a northern horse, which makes sense having some extra fur on there and stuff. And another bonus that this also shares with the Headless Horseman horse is that it does come with the extra mane piece so that you can pose it up in both the regular mane and then this blowing in the wind mane. So that's another pro in terms of how awesome Boreus is. Anyway, let's get in here for a close-up, and we'll do like sort of the close-up and just a quick look at the articulation. Again, if you want to see more articulation, check out my other horse reviews, but the head can swing up and down, and it can go side to side and left to right. And then the neck also has a lot of range of motion there too. So you can really move this guy around quite a bit. You can go up a ton, down a ton, and yeah, just great range of motion in that neck. And then here's a look at that collar piece and then into the saddle. And then you have the front legs on a hinge that can swing out and back. And I do have like a little issue here. I think I needed to heat this up and press it together because mine's warped out a little bit on that side. So this side's out and this side's in. But there is a twist there. Got a hinge at this knee, and then you've got a hinge and twist at the hoof, and a nice close look at the fur and the paint details down there. A look on the underbelly. And then the back legs are on a ball peg, so those have like some in and out motion, so you can kind of have them be wider stance or narrower stance. Hinge on that leg, hinge on that knee, hinge and twist at the hoof as well. And then the tail's on a hinged peg that also swivels. And then here's a look at that blanket. But just a lot of great stuff going on with this horse. Let's take a look with a few figures on there. Okay, so first up, here's a look at Boreus with a standard Mythic Legions 1.0 style figure. This is a kit bash. It's Xenothon's arms and legs on Ilgar, but I think this looks pretty great on there. And then I think a lot of people might want to know how it looks with the 112 Collective Death Dealer. For a lot of people, I think the Headless Horseman horse was a great option, but that's hard to get. It's like part of a pack. It's sold out. Boreus is available. And I think this works well. I think that this is a good look to have the Death Dealer on Boreus. If you're in the mood for a little Planet of the Apes vibe, here's the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Pale figure on there. And that's kind of cool that like he kind of matches. He's a lighter gray, obviously, but those reddish colors really, I think, kind of blend in well together. Here's how it looks with a 7-inch figure. This is the Masterverse He-Man from the movie with a custom head sculpt by Hordak MDX on Instagram, who I think is still selling this head. So if you're interested in this head, check it out. Probably one of my favorite figures on here. This is Lady Averona from the same wave, All Stars 5+. I think she is phenomenal on here, and especially now that they're doing like the cloth tabard sort of like loincloth piece. It makes putting the figures on the horse that much easier. So there you have it, my ranking of the 5 Mythic Legions horses, and they are not done yet. We already have on pre-order a skeleton horse and a white knight style horse, and it's just blowing me away how awesome this little subline of horses is from Four Horsemen Studio. Thanks for watching my video, and until next time, may the force be with you.